try to save this seat, but as we speak tonight, most people think that one will go along with the presidential race staying blue in Wisconsin. So where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left. Let me take this one off the board. In Ohio, Rob Portman running against the former governor. Rob Portman viewed as safe to hold that seat right now. So then it gets interesting. We've got the Republicans at 48, the Democrats at 47. Look what's left on the map. In New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan, the governor, running against the incumbent Senator Kelly Ayotte. Donald Trump in this state is pulling Kelly Ayotte down. At the moment, Maggie Hassan looks like she's poised for victory. Time to go, but that's where it is today. The same in Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey's been competitive. Trump now down by close to double digits. Katie McGinty viewed as the favorite in that race right now. Here's where it's interesting. The Democrats are now at 49 in this scenario. Again, it's hypothetical. If Hillary Clinton wins, they only need 50. Then Tim Kaine would break the tie in the Senate. 1, 2, 3. 3 races to get one, including Harry Reid's seat. This is the only Democratic-held seat that people view as in play right now. Joe Heck, the Republican. Republicans actually think, even in Nevada, they can win this state, although of late, Trump has been struggling. But for now, Heck's worried about it. Let's give that one to him just for this scenario to show you how this could play out. 49-49, Indiana and North Carolina. Usually reliably Republican states. Evan Bayh trying to make a comeback against Republican Todd Young in Indiana. Watch that race. And in North Carolina, we talk about the Green Party candidate, the Libertarian in the presidential race. A Libertarian in North Carolina could affect the race here. Richard Burr's the Republican incumbent. Deborah Ross has an ad on the air linking him to Donald Trump, saying he's still standing with Donald Trump despite that Access Hollywood tape. So this could come down to something like this, 48-48, 49-49, with 1 or 2 Senate races deciding the balance of power. Anderson heading into the final weeks, Republicans are worried. As Donald Trump goes down, so do their chances of maintaining the Senate.
John King, John, thanks for that. Okay, a panel now with a difference. All Republicans divided over Trump. Trump supporters, Kayleigh McEnany and former South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer. Joining them, Trump critics Amanda Carpenter and Kevin Madden. Kevin, this whole notion from Trump that the election is rigged, how concerned should down-ballot Republicans be about that? Because if Republican voters stay home Election Day believing the whole thing's rigged, then a lot of these races could easily tilt in the Democrats' favor.
Yeah, and that's why it's not a smart message. I mean, if anything, it is counterproductive to energizing your voters to get out to vote. What animated Republican what Republican is animated to vote if they believe that they're participating in an election that's rigged or where their vote won't count? So it is going to have a potential depressive effect on some of these races. If particularly when you're looking at these close races in places like John was talking about, in places like North Carolina and Nevada, Republicans staying home could be the difference maker in some of those races.
Kayleigh, is the whole
talking about in places like North Carolina and Nevada. Republicans staying home could be the difference maker in some of those races.
The whole rigged notion?
I think, well, potentially, yes, because I think if people think that the campaign is rigged, that the election is rigged, they are going to turn out. And just to quickly mention about these down-ballot races, I really think there could be a reverse down-ballot effect. I've heard anecdotally from many Republicans saying, I'm not voting on my senator because he hasn't supported the nominee. Look at a place like New Hampshire where Donald Trump trounced John Kasich by 20 percentage points. Those voters who showed up enthusiastically for Trump are very disappointed in their Senate candidate. The rejection of the voters, it's a rejection of the way they chose, and I think there could be a reverse down-ballot effect.
Amanda, I mean, back in '96, when it seemed that Bill Clinton was all but certain to win, Republican operatives started urging congressional candidates in tough races to start using the argument that voters shouldn't give Clinton a blank check, essentially conceding the presidential election, underscoring how important it was to keep Congress in Republican control. Do you think we start seeing a similar thing in these next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a smart message, too, because whoever wins, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, most likely Hillary Clinton, will need a strong Republican Congress to keep them in check. But to just Kayleigh's point that she made earlier, I mean, Donald Trump is polling so much worse than many of these senators in battleground states. If you look at the battleground states, you know, they're fairly competitive, maybe between 3 or 5 points, except for the worst, the states where they're faring much more poorly, like Illinois and Wisconsin. But the Trump campaign still seems to think that the GOP primary is the same as the general election. It is not. The strategy for winning a primary will not translate to the general. That's why you see these terrible polling numbers that Donald Trump is both having in those battleground states and nationally.
And to that point, to Amanda's point, the universe of voters in a general election is over about 160 million. That's nowhere near the same universe of voters that participated in the primary, so it's an entirely different electorate.
It is, Andre, though, a bind for some down-ballot Republicans because there is polling that indicates they get punished as well by some other Republicans.
Well, I think they're getting punished because people don't see any progress in Washington. I mean, the whole reason Donald Trump won against a very talented field of Republicans was this is a year thing. It's not just a Democrat thing. It's a total. They're so dissatisfied with the system. That's why they picked an outsider in Donald Trump, and that's why they're frustrated. Some of them with their own members of Congress, they are at a boiling point where they want to drain the swamp, get the D.C. cartel out, and start over. And sometimes you even vote across party lines. I probably wouldn't be one of those folks to do that, but some people are at that point where they are so fed up, they are ready to start over, and they're willing to give somebody else a try no matter who that person is.
So, Kaylee, what do you say to those Republicans in tough races who are trying to figure out what to do about Trump, whether they kind of just, separate themselves from him or continue to embrace it?
You support the nominee. You support the choice of the people. The Republican Party seems to forget they do not exist absent Republican voters. Republican voters, this is really important, I think. Frank Luntz posted a poll, and it showed that 51% think Donald Trump's the leader of the Republican Party, and just 30% think Paul Ryan is. Donald Trump is the way of this party's future. The outsider candidate is the way of this party's future. Support the nominee. That doesn't mean you have to agree with him on everything. If you disagree with something he said, you can say that.
You think if he loses, you think he's still going to be around as a leader of the Republican Party?
He might not be around, but I can promise you this movement will be around, and Mike Pence will probably become the leader of it.
Amanda,
No, I think he's going to be on to the next scheme. But, I think most voters view the Republican Party not as some militaristic organization where you must fall in line and salute the leader. All these senators, members of Congress need to run their individual races. They need to talk to voters about what is important to them. And a lot of Republican voters are not happy with either choice. So the best thing that members can do in these individual races is prioritize their state's needs and talk about the best way to meet the needs of their voters, not meet the needs of their presidential candidate who, has self-esteem issues, people not supporting him sufficiently.
That's such backward logic. You're talking about saluting the leader, but the leader was put there by the voters. No, I'm not. I'm talking
about the exact opposite.
The leader was put there by the voters. So by saying don't support the leader, but support the voters, that's backwards logic.
By 30% of voters in a GOP primary race. This is a general election. Like I was saying earlier, we have to go into general election mode and appeal to a much more broader swath of voters than Donald Trump did in the Republican primary.
Kevin, what do you say to those down-ballot Republicans who are sort of trying to figure out what to do about Donald Trump?
Well, I agree. I think the most important thing is to separate yourself from a very troublesome national environment and personalize and localize your race. There's two types of campaigns that are out there right now. The campaigns that were drafting off of what they thought was some enthusiasm for an outsider like Donald Trump, and many of those races, if they are in swing districts, they're going to lose right now because of Donald Trump's depressive effect on the down-ballot races. But if you ran a campaign that was personalized and localized, like Rob Portman, he essentially ran for sheriff in every county in Ohio, and he's probably running anywhere between 10 to 15 points ahead of Donald Trump. That is the ideal template, I think, for folks that are going to survive the Donald Trump effect in this election.
Anderson, if they wrap themselves around the policies that Donald Trump talked about, immigration, welfare reform, getting us back in line and not being continuing to spin out of control. If they wrap them, they could easily say, look, I don't agree with our nominee on everything, but he has pointed out some key things that define where this country will go for the next 4 years. And those issues, they can easily embrace, because when you put head-to-head issues on the two candidates, overwhelmingly the people would support Donald Trump.
All right, Kaylee, Andre, stick around. Kevin, Amanda, thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Coming up next, Hillary Clinton on the trail, trying to loosen Donald Trump's grip on Ohio, making what sounds a lot like a closing argument. And later, my conversation with Univision's Jorge Ramos, who has some thoughts on Trump's trajectory, as well as what he says is the rise of hate groups in the wake of his campaign.